Thank you. Test 1, 2. Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome to Phoenix. Yay. Woohoo. Oh, Tucson. Okay. I said that last night in Phoenix. I'm here as the expert. Now, a couple of things. You know the definition of an expert? Yeah, X is an unknown quantity. A spurt is a drip under pressure. That's the old bio. You know, I'm no longer the vice chair of the U.S. TAG to TC. I served in that capacity for like 6 years. Membership chair, I'm no longer membership chair, but every time I speak, which you'll see later, I give you the link to become a member of the U.S. Technical Advisory Group to TC 176, because that's where I learn lots of stuff. And ultimately, they need somebody to say, what's going on? And I end up in venues like this. Yeah, this is going to be hopefully a little twist on this whole idea of the upcoming cataclysmic changes to ISO in 2015. And hopefully some takeaways for you as a result of that. I want to pick up on a couple of threads that our earlier presenter this morning, Tim McKay, mentioned. When you think of, and then I'll get to what I was going to say, okay? First, thank you, Tim. Great presentation. When I think of what has been the greatest single contributor to quality in the last 50 years, the greatest single contributor to uniformity in products, think of your iPhone, right? No one expects to go to the iStore and get an iPhone that doesn't work. So, you know, plug and play 100%, right? And all of you, in your own way, depending on what you're doing, are trying to achieve the same output. What is the number one thing that we can point to that in the last 50 years has revolutionized the ability to have 100% plug and play, quote, perfect quality, you know, 100% ppm? Well, that shows my age, right? Parts per billion, right? What's the one thing? It's the computer. What's the one thing that when it goes wrong, everything breaks down and you can ship perfect crap beautifully? The computer. You know, but it's still true. So, I mean, to continue on with the thread, I mean, I can look at a huge difference in going from when I was a kid to having to figure it out all in my head to now having a calculator in class, right? Let alone a computer, let alone wiki this, wiki that, wiki whatever. I'm on a plane. This is a true story. I'm on a plane back from wherever the heck I was, because that's what I do all the time. Does that sound familiar? Oh, I see you're a diamond. Wow. Yeah, that means I don't have a life. Crap. So now we've got go-go in flight, right? If you're Delta, you got go-go in flight. So I don't want to work on my audit report. I am like toast head. I want to browse the internet at 32,000 feet. And I had an Amazon order that I wanted to check up on. Why not? So I go to Amazon. Boat shoes. First thing I see, you know, when you log it, boat shoes, sale on boat shoes. He mentioned I live in two places, Fargo, North Dakota, don't you know? And Prescott, Wisconsin, which is just a suburb of Minneapolis. Like to get to the airport is like a 35-minute drive from Prescott. But we live in a beautiful place, deer, raccoons, little sons of... you know, some really cool, you know, it's like in, you know, 5 acres, gorgeous, and 6 minutes to the marina. And in the marina's on the Mississippi. The city of Prescott is the confluence of the St. Croix River and the Mississippi River. So if you're going to define the border between Minnesota, don't you know, and Wisconsin, woo, you use above Minneapolis, you use the St. Croix River, and like one side of the river is Minnesota, the other side is Wisconsin. When you get to the city of Prescott, it changes from the St. Croix to the Mississippi, right? You literally can smell it. It's bizarre. We leave the marina, and like within, I don't know, a quarter mile, which is nothing, you start to see the waters from the St. Croix flowing into the Mississippi, and like one is kind of brown and the other is like freaking disgusting. And it only went, from Itasca State Park way up north down to Minneapolis, but boy, they had a big chance to put some crap in there before it got to us. But anyway, so if we do boating, we spend most of our time in the we fish a lot. In the St. Croix, we'll fish there's 45 different species of fish. It's incredible. Muskies are like mammoth. But if we catch anything in the Mississippi, it's guaranteed catch and release. Yeah. So I log into Amazon and see boat shoes are on sale. Oh, that's cool. So I got a pair of Perry Docksiders. They were in like an E-width, and it was like really cool, it's like the boom boom. And I'm using, again, the computer. One of the greatest, perhaps the greatest single contribution to quality in my lifetime. And I'm Amazon Prime. Anybody out there Amazon Prime? That means if you order a lot of stuff, it ends up being free shipping for the most part, right? But you got to really be an Amazon addict. I am, because I'm only home on the weekends. I don't go shopping on Saturday. I assemble the things I bought during the week from Amazon that shows up. It's like Christmas on Friday night. Right? Yeah, front door Friday night. It's like, hey, Mom, thanks for all the gifts. Yeah, I got my boxes. What do you do with all that packing crap they send? Okay. This is a Thursday night. 7:30, I pushed by, and there was nothing in there about, because I'm Prime, there was nothing in there about it'll get to you tomorrow, for $95. It was just, buy. Thursday night, 7:30. Friday afternoon, 3 o'clock, my shoes arrived. I mean, that's true. Have you ever experienced anything like that just sort of blew you away in terms of delivery? Yeah. That's quality, folks. That's quality, right? Log on to healthcare. When it works, it works. And when it doesn't, it doesn't. Tim also brought up his definition of quality. I have kind of a pet peeve on this. And I'm not picking a fight with Tim or anybody else. But I'd like to give you the definition of quality that, again, it's an old bio. It's 30 years, right? John Knappenberger, Big Johnny K. Right? Let us know that he's 67 years old. I'm 65. So I've been in the game for a while. I have come up with a definition of quality that if you have a pen, maybe it would be fun, okay? It's in 3 parts, but it's all one sentence. Quality is knowing exactly what your customer wants. Quality is knowing exactly what your customer wants. And I mean that. When we go and audit organizations and we say, how do you monitor a customer's perception of quality, right? You smell an 8.1, guys? And they, we do surveys. We send out 400 and we get 5 back. Well, good, you're compliant. Knowing exactly what your customer wants, we would all agree, is far beyond sending out 400 surveys and getting 5 back, correct? I mean, if you really know what your customer wants, you are embedded in the mindset of your customer. Your machine shop. You have a first name basis, and you know the names of their kids, and you know their anniversary in the engineering department of your primary customer. See where I'm going? Quality is knowing exactly what your customer wants. No ifs, ands, or buts. So let's continue the definition. Quality is knowing exactly what your customer wants while providing more than expected. Quality is knowing exactly what your customer wants while providing more than expected. Does McDonald's do focus groups? Do they actually test? Do they have test kitchens? Huh? Do they have people try the new McRibs? Right? They don't release something that they're not sure of. It's a big, I mean, they got training they got to do. It's a big deal to bring out a new something. If I say Big Mac, how many of you are salivating? You know exactly what it tastes like, don't you? Would you agree with me that McDonald's knows, and others like them, McDonald's has a lock on quantity as well as quality. They want, if you buy a McDonald's Big Mac in Peking or in Budapest, it's going to, oh, I should have said Budapest. Sorry. I'm an international traveler. I'm a member of the ISO Tag 176 committee that goes to many international meetings. ISO stands for International Sightseeing Organization. But you would agree with me, that I'm pretty sure that McDonald's knows when it gives you a paper bag with what you ordered in it, they know down to probably the ounce as to what you got. Would you agree? So why are there always extra French fries at the bottom of the bag? Always. And don't they taste better than any of the other French fries? You're laughing, but you know it's true, don't you? Quality is knowing exactly what your customer wants while providing more than expected, because if you know exactly what they want, you can spend the least amount cutting into profits in order to provide them that little bit extra that is the delight quotient. You got it? We're not done yet. Quality is knowing exactly what your customer wants while providing more than expected and doing so in the most efficient and effective manner possible. Yet, at the same time, if you ask quality professionals, unfortunately too many of them, tell me the difference between efficient and effective, and you get, well, yeah, it's like, tell me the difference between verification and validation. Am I getting through? You can efficiently make perfect crap. Not very effective to sell, right? I mean, if you're playing the game, the object is to win, i.e. effectiveness. I can very efficiently hit a ball back and forth across the net. I can be very efficient at doing that. But if I lose the game, it's not very effective, is it? Quality is knowing exactly what your customer wants while providing more than expected and doing so in the most efficient and effective manner possible, a la ISO 9000. That which we audit is efficiency and effectiveness. And by the way, it's also number one and it's number two. Because world-class organizations are working not just to satisfy requirements, but going beyond that to delight the customer, providing more than expected. Does that make sense? Well, okay. Thank you, Tim. You got me going. And Big Johnny K. I've been watching this background. Can you, doesn't it just make you think like, doesn't that, right? It does. I mean no disrespect to the conference people. I'm just like you, though. I'm no different than you. I'm up here talking. I've got the bright lights on me. But my gig is the same as your gig. I mean, yeah, they asked me to come here and talk to you. I fly all over the world and go to these meetings, but my job is the same as your job. I no longer am quality director at Northern Pipe Products in Fargo, North Dakota. I am now a free spirit. Number one job advantage that I have is as a third-party auditor or as a consultant. When the day is over, I know I don't have to come back to that place. You want to talk about liberating? I mean, anybody here who does auditing as a profession knows what it's like to say, my God, I'm so glad. The only thing I got to do is the report, and then I've washed my hands of this mess. They can figure out their own, how are you going to get out of your own nonconformities? But, if you see me on the street, I don't come around in suits. I mean, we don't wear suits anymore to do audits. What's the dress code there? I don't want to stick out like a sore thumb. I mean, I spend most of my life in jeans, going from one place to the other. So this is kind of a show. Put me in front of a bunch of people, and you would do the same as I would. Try to find something funny to say, right? Pantomime greatness. How many of you have heard the chauffeur joke in The Cardiologist? Oh, got a new crowd. Same idea, the same idea about, experts. This cardiologist wrote a book on a new quadruple bypass surgery methodology. Dry as toast, right? No, his writing style was amazing. What was intended for, maybe they'll sell 5,000 copies, became a New York Times bestseller. Okay? Well, the publisher never expected this. It was supposed to be just for the medical profession, but now it's something everybody's reading because of his writing style. It was so vibrant, so intense, and it made so much sense, and he's using all of these fantastic, examples and whatever. And so they decided, well, we're going to put him on a book tour. And he was going to have his chauffeur take him to all these different cities just straight down the East Coast. Starting at Boston, Medical Alley, right? Starting in Boston and working his way on down the East Coast, down to Florida. That was going to be the tour, 2 weeks. Every night he's giving his speech. And, for the first week, it was just nothing but resounding success. And his chauffeur takes him from one gig to the other to the other. And it's like, starting the second week, for the first Monday performance is what he was looking at. I'm a surgeon, here I am, well, like palms up here. I do my gig, but they asked me to, whoa! And he's tired of it. He slumps into the seat after Monday's presentation, and he says, I don't know if I can do this anymore. I am wiped. I'm a surgeon. I am not a public speaker. I'm just a regular guy. Well, I have an education in surgery, but I'm a regular guy. I don't know if I can. And his chauffeur turns around and says, well, I've been in every one of your presentations. I'll do it for you tomorrow night. I listened to you really well. I mean, I read your book. I can do the same thing tomorrow night. Yeah, right. He says, just take me to the hotel. Tuesday, comes out to the car from his hotel. They hold the door for him, closes the door, sitting in the back, shaking his head, rubbing his forehead, saying, were you serious about that the other day when you said last night you could do it? The chauffeur says, yeah, I can do it. Okay. When we get there, let's go to the men's room, we'll change clothes. You give the presentation. I'll stand in the back. I say, sure. So that's what they did. Change clothes in the men's room, come back out. And the chauffeur, who looked a lot like him and in these huge venues, but couldn't tell, he's up there and he's doing the slide presentations and all this other stuff. And after 45 minutes of this lecture, the crowd stands up in this loud, wow, huge ovation. They're all incredible. The chauffeur is, thank you very much. Thank you. And he's so full of himself, he says, any questions? Well, as the applause is dying down, there's some anal retentive type out here. There's always one in the crowd. He says, yeah, I've got a question. The procedure that you outlined in your book is dangerous. It is not just dangerous. I mean, even the way you said it, as far as I'm concerned, is dangerous. Medical journals are supposed to be written, it should be in Lancet, it shouldn't be a bestseller, blah, 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 blah. And he's just carrying on, he's just angry, he's getting red-faced, all this. And as he's going on, the chauffeur is going, yeah, right. And as the guy finishes his question, he says, you know, really, the answer to your concerns is so basic. I bet my chauffeur could answer that. If you remember all the pieces, that's a great joke, right? Revolution. How do you manage a revolution? What did you do the last time? This is going to be not so much about 2015, what's coming, but I want to try to define the true challenge to everybody in the room. I don't care if you're a user or if you're an observer, if you're a top manager, if you're I don't know, an ANAB as an accreditation body. Everybody, every one of us is going to have to respond to the true challenge to what's coming up. Well, okay, what is it? Worldwide survey. Al Jarvis, chairman of US tagged to TC176, was responsible for this survey. This is what they come up with. I mean, these are thousands of users within a million-plus community of users of 9001. Many of you probably took this survey. Electronic survey, right? This is what came out. These, 5 primary bullets. Like it's a farda that it has to change to continue to be relevant, right? The idea of moving away from preventive action to risk management. This third bullet is an interesting one. One as an auditor and as a consultant, I've never had a problem with. But if you read seriously about what they're talking about, they're just saying that when it comes to things like leadership and management commitment and a strategic management level kind of view of what ISO is about. It's not a bolt-on, it's how we run our business. We need more consistency, right? More connectivity. And also that we need to work more with Casco, which is like the civilian arm. It's kind of like the consumer arm of ISO. Casco is where we get all these great standards like, ISO 10049, how to mount the toilet paper on the mandrel. All of the Casco stuff usually ends up in a 10,000. I was in SC3 for a long time. That's where all this crazy stuff goes. It's important as to which way the toilet paper is on the mandrel. You people are laughing. If you own a cat and you have it face forward, right, you come back to a puddle of toilet paper. But if you put it backward, all you end up with is a few perforation marks from their little claws. So let's involve Casco. Let's involve the IAF. The IAF, the International Antipathy Forum. I was liaison between ISO Central Secretariat, TC176, and IAF. A bunch of people sitting around meetings that they spend 2 weeks. I told John this. They spend 2 weeks talking about very important issues to them and not much about the user community, the on-the-ground folks, because they don't live there. They're way up here in this big hotel for 2 weeks at expensive prices eating good food. And I think, John, the conversation that I had with him was that we are looking at a day when everybody's going to have to be accountable throughout that whole auditing chain, right? Yes. Right now, if you go to an IAF meeting, it's in many ways, to me, worse than watching paint peel. Because they should be doing something to increase the amount of good work, good effort being done by the ISO auditors, the people that John oversees, and the work that John does. All of it good, by the way. If you want to see the #1 accreditation body in the world, want to model what the best one should be, it's the ANAB. Do you guys know that? Highly respected throughout the world. So the IAF, regardless of your impression, and Casco need to be, in other words, we need the voice of the customer. How's that, right? So here, this is a user survey, right? Starts, I don't know, a few years after the release of ISO 9001, 2008. So if we're going to do a revision, we were reaching out to the world through this survey to ask you guys what you thought rather than, all the wizened experts, remember the definition, who attend all these meetings. Same dudes all the time, which is another problem with the international TC176. Okay, we'll get this user survey. Concurrent with that, if I only had the Darth Vader theme playing, the ISO directives also have to be updated, revised. Just like 9001, all these others have to be revised every 5 years. So the ISO directives are revised. Within them is this annexed SL, which gives a new set of element names, 10 new element names, a high-level structure. Now look, on this one side they're saying make 14,001 and 13585, 16, all of them, make them have sort of the same management-related stuff. Well, what does the TMB do, which is the Technical Management Board within ISO, who created this top-level structure? They said, oh, I know what we'll do. Every one of the management system standards has to have the same 10 element names. Did they do a user survey? No. 1 million, can you count them? 1 million companies have to grapple with the fact that what used to be something in section, let's say section 7 is now in section 8, right? Well, wait a minute, we went through this in 2000, right? Oh, we went from the old 20 elements, right? Remember all them? 4.18 was training. And then we went into the process approach and all that in ISO 9001, 2000, rubber stamped in 2008. But the TMB, the good old TMB, said we need 10 new topic headings. The US, Canada hit the roof. Craziest thing we ever heard. We never asked for this. We don't need no stinking badges. We don't want it. This is crazy. It has no value for the user group to just go ahead and change the names, because what's going to happen is the writing committee, Working Group 24, is going to just spend its time just shoving this stuff into new places. We got other things we want to do. We want to work within the existing context and make it better. Letter after letter after letter after meeting after meeting after meeting. In fact, delaying the writing of ISO 9001 before we got a definitive answer as to whether or not this was going to be the law of the land. 10 topic headings. The user survey didn't say change the 10 topic headings. The TMB said change the 10 topic headings, right? Still, we are saying, don't do this. Anybody read this? If you haven't got a copy of this, get a copy. Sorry, JP, if you get run over by people wanting them, good, right? Take names and email addresses. This is summarized very well in this piece of work. And I urge you to, if you don't have a copy, get a copy as to what's going on in ISO. So do I sound upset? Yeah, okay. This thing really wasn't vetted the way it should have been. And, ISO is 46 countries, I think. Within them, we have like 9 countries that are developed, and the rest are trying to figure out, what their borders are. Sorry, but at the end of the day, we end up with, oh, it's a good idea. Majority opinion says we will continue. Okay. The revision format looks like this. Dennis had a great presentation. Do yourself a favor. Don't look at my summary. Look at his last presentation this morning on changes to 9001, 2015. Anybody went to that? All right. You guys have got the key to the city in the second half of my presentation. These are the new topic headings, okay? So if you haven't seen them before, I'll let you sort of look through that. See if this one goes backwards. There's a red button. Does that mean go backwards or shut the whole thing off? The red button. Don't touch the red button. Oh my, don't. It's backwards? Let's see. Yeah, okay. Wow. I feel better. So for those of you who are looking, what are these clauses? Section 4, context of the organization. 5 is leadership, and this is nice. This addresses, it even goes into accountability, cool. Planning, support, operation. Most of what was in 2008's revision has now been sort of pigeonholed into Section 8. Section 9 is the old Section 8, right? Okay. And improvement is its own baby, not continual improvement. Okay, got it? That's what's coming on. The CD that was just released is the first one. It's obviously infantile. They all are. Take a look at the CD for I'm the guy that's responsible for the revision of ISO 2000, right? Fundamentals, principles, terms, definitions. Just take a look at the 2000 comments saying, you're out of your mind when it comes to what's happened in ISO 9000. That working group tried to write a book on what quality is in order to reach out to top management. We have got to take an 80-page, did I say that? 80 pages in the current CD for 9000 and bring that down to an acceptable 20, right? Oh, by the way, those of you who don't know what ISO 9000 is, it's kind of like the foundation of the whole thing. Yes. How many of you have a copy of both ISO 9001 and ISO 9000? Yes, thank you very much. I'm saying the same thing John Neppenberger said, right? Did you read it? What's the definition of product? Well, I don't. It's the output of a process. Well, no, it's when things go wrong. Non-conforming product is stuff in manufacturing. What does 7.1 mean? Well, that tells you how to build a manufacturing process. 7.1. No, it tells you how to build a process, like 4.1 tells you how to build a system. Really? Yeah, you could use 7.1 as your audit focus every time something's wrong. Ask yourself, what is it in 7.1 they ain't got? Just turn it upside down and say, ooh, if you're having problems, something in 7.1 is either weak or missing. Right? Wow. Hope that's a takeaway. By the way, we're getting rid of 7.1 anyway. Bottom line is, organizations that use multiple management systems, we're increasingly demanding issues revolving around management to be centralized, the same, right? I go and audit an organization that's both 14,001 and 9,001. I open their quality manual and integrated management system, and they tell me, oh, by the way, everything in green is 14,001, and everything in black is 9,001. I've seen it over and over again. You have too, right? Right? Oh, and if it's in red, it's automotive. Because those guys don't kid around. Yeah. They got more requirements than these other guys. So, I can go through a typical quality manual and recognize that there's an integrated management system, and we really don't have a big problem with this. This has been our point from the beginning. You want that? Okay. Why don't you just tell people, put it in green, put it in red, leave it in black. Then we can move on. Didn't work. So, if you want to get into it, here's the link. And these are all going to be up on the web. So if you want to look at this presentation, certainly Dennis's presentation, please go to the web and just click on this, and it'll take you, or if it doesn't work, type it out in your URL, and it'll take you to, and you can read the directives, you can read Annex XL, okay? Okay. Bottom line is, nobody knew that this wasn't going to be the output, okay? Everybody knew this would be the output. We got to decrease the emphasis on documentation. We do. This whole idea of mandating now 7 quality manual plus 3 fuel sources and 3 controls. That's what it is. Internal audit, corrective and preventive are fuel sources, 3 controls. Documents, records, right? Non-conforming product. There's a balance. You auditors are going to freak, right? Okay, well, you have to actually use Larry Whittington's door concept. If you haven't got a document, you've got several other things you can look at. Larry, I turned it around and I called it the House of Dior. Documentation, interview, observation, and records. And when I do auditor training, I bring somebody out and say, we're going to start a men's wardrobe company. And we got to examine all the documentation catalogs, right? We got to observe guys in shorts, because that's what we're going to buy is shorts, and that's how I got my red. Why do you look at my shorts? Have fun with it. If you haven't got documentation, you still, in many places, there's no requirement for documentation in purchasing, but you still get by, don't you? Yeah. But this whole idea of what John said, we got to have results. Bob King, John's predecessor, said output matters. Both gentlemen are right on the mark. No matter what you make, it has to be, no matter how elegant your process, it has to deliver results. And I don't want to beat a dead horse. You knew that, right? You knew that. So that's what you face. That's what you face, all of us. And that's why their lights are up. You and me both, we're going to go and do our bread and butter jobs, whether it's running a quality system or being an auditor to a quality system or a consultant to a quality system or some over whatever. We're all in this same boat together. So how do we respond to the last major change? Here's my pivot point. What did we do the last time? I mean, right now it's Chicken Little. The sky is falling. It's like, right? 10 new topic headings. Once again, thank you, JP. What did you do the last time? Well, we have an equivalency matrix. It's essentially the new 2000, all of those new numbers there. It's 4.18 is now 6.2.2. Wait a minute, it's the other error. Yeah, you know what I mean. Here it is. We worked it out. Equivalency matrix. Oh, we're going to see that. Think back. Remember what it was like to transition to the 2000 revision, whether you did or not. Because a lot of people didn't. We're still seeing the same legacy documentation from 1987's version, let alone 1994, within those organizations we audit. And you know it. This call for the process approach and whatever, and I'll get into it a little bit more in auditing a little bit. Anybody listen? Well, just look at my equivalency matrix. You got to think back what it was like to transition to 2000. Remembering I just read a book by Billy Crystal. He also turned 65. And he wrote a wonderful, funny book about what it's like to get older, right? Still fooling him, and Where Did I Leave My Keys? That's the title of the book. Filled with wonderful jokes. This is one of them. One of his chapters is the 5 phases of forgetting. You know, like old people, right? Okay? And here's what he has as the title page. Isn't that great? Yeah, the 5 stages of forgetting. I think we're in the same boat when it comes to what we face for 2015. What are those 5 phases? You know, what was it like? What was going on? And in that regard, remembering what that was like, what would I try to offer? Sort of like were I in any of your shoes, whether they're boating shoes you got overnight or not, right? Come on, go on. Yeah. I speak all over the world, and this is one of my favorite things to say, regardless whether it's the transition or not. I've been saying this for the last, at least 8 years. The best thing you can do is go back and burn your quality manual and now write something that's good for you, not good for your registrar. Because almost every one of them starts with, how am I going to get registered? And that thinking still permeates your quality manuals. Burn the damn thing. Burn it. Do I get an amen? Amen? Start over. This is your chance to finally do it right. Stop with this legacy documentation. Stop with this, the organization shall, oh, I know. We do this. Forget it. I'm seeing quality manuals that are this big, and then you look in what is required in a quality manual, it's like that much. If you read what's required in a quality manual, you could do it in 4 pages. Is that true? No, I've got to tell you what I do in design, and then I'm going to write my own process, and then I'm going to write my work, but it all starts up here in our quality manual. It don't have to. Just give me the link. But serve beer and snacks, bring top management in and say, hallelujah, we're going to burn this thing. Because you finally recognize the #1 rule in anybody who works in a business. This is what the banner says. Do I get an amen? All right. Because, and that's from my graduate advisor. That's Dr. Bialozer saying this to me as a young 20-some-year-old. Listen, kid, you think you're going to change the world after 3 years, all you have left is to institutionalize your failures. Look at preventive action. Typical audit. Third-party auditor, I go in, can I see your corrective action? Yeah, I'm going to, sure. Can I see your preventive action? Well, we got a safety program. Do you have near-miss accident reports? Yeah. What do you do with them? We fix them. Like, somebody said, we put up a parabolic mirror and won't get run over by a forklift. It's right over there. You want to see it? Did you ever think that a near-miss accident report is the perfect input point for preventive action? Golly darn. My goodness. It never occurred to me. Are you telling me I should do that? I'm your auditor. I can't tell you what to do. But join the revolution. Every one of you, and me too, all we can do is to institutionalize our failures after a certain amount of time. This is your chance to blow that up. Start over again. Do something, right? I'm going to use auditing as an example. Any of you ever read The Shot Across the Bow that Janine and I wrote? About this has got to stop, this compliance auditing stuff. It was in the auditor newsletter. Oh boy, massive circulation. This is what we said. This is like 2011. Those who persist in using simple compliance audit approach are damaging our profession, offering poor value, and diminishing the relevance and importance of ISO 9001-2008, Section 4.1C, specifically NE22B. And we were calling for decertification, right? And making corrective action that demanded training. Well, yeah, I learned auditing 1998, my certificate from Mel Dugan and Associates. Right here. That's ISO. What does ISO mean, by the way? It means International Standards Organization. No, ISO actually started because of the European Common Market and the need for multiple countries to work together, much like the United States does. ISO is Greek for equal. The iOS creates the ISO standard. Golly. Got to change this. And yet, as auditors, we go and see compliance audits they're doing internally, and my God, we see, I'm sure A and AB sees it, registrars who go in with checklists, and yes or no, yes or no, yes or no, if and, hi, I'm making this process perfectly, and no one's buying it. Check. Great process control, good controls, love it, love it. Wow. Preventive actions and other deletions, right? The aid management principles are now 7. Apparently the world community was a little too dense to understand that I want that guy's name. But a little too dense to understand that when you say the process approach, and then you say the systems approach to management, they're kind of like it's a bunch of processes that make the system that you have to manage. That was too difficult. So we had to get rid of the systems approach to management. It took us 3 years of meetings internationally running all over the place. Jack West, bless his heart, represented us. The last one's kind of cool. Instead of saying mutually beneficial supplier relations, it now has essentially says mutually beneficial relations among all interested parties, right? Now, you hear the word stakeholders, you hear the word interested parties. I'm responsible for 9,000, right? That's the terms and definitions. Stakeholders is going to die. It doesn't translate well. So you're going to hear interested parties. You can almost like, if you want to take one thing to the bank, it ain't going to be stakeholders, it's going to be interested parties. Preventive action, of course, now is risk management. It should have been a long time ago. I mean, you should have had, if you're advising an organization and you're helping them with their preventive action process, it should never have been titled preventive action. It should have been titled risk management. You should have pulled out a copy of ISO 31000 and started talking about risk appetite and risk policy and all that, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. ISO 31000, gotta look that up. Okay. Documents and records are now documented information because the world just can't understand the difference between a document and a record. You guys know that, right? You're laughing because you cannot believe that you go into an organization and you say, what's the difference between a document and a record? It's like, weren't we talking about that before when that preventive action thing, risk management? I'm a little tired. Okay, let me see if I get this right. A record is something that we store and a document is something we make. Is that what it is? Well, you're kind of close. A document is alive and a record is dead. That's closer. You can revise a document that is, for example, a form, but once the form is used, that becomes a record. Well, that's too tough for the world to understand. It's all no documented information. I'll live with it. I mean, really, I'll live with it. If I can get people to understand to control this stuff, who cares? Right? Okay. Good. Let's get rid of that stuff. If you pull out another document that has its initial authoring date of 1996 and then tell me, oh yeah, we look at this every year in management review. Starting Monday, go knock on the door. Say, hey, something's coming. I got Dennis's PowerPoint here. It says we're going to have to start thinking in different ways about some of the stuff we're already doing. We're going to have some holes here. We got years of practice and study and gap analysis. We can get in front of this. We can start celebrating those things that we're doing that we can see, we can anticipate are coming. Start that small committee right now and involve top management. You've been saying this to everybody. Yeah, right. It isn't. This is our business manual. That's why we need the top management buy-in, right? And please tell people to throw out a schedule. Ain't no such requirement in the standard. Audits are to be a planned event. Nobody says you have to develop a schedule. Nobody. Yet everybody says, you want to see my audit schedule? No, not particularly. I want to see if your audits are producing good output. I mean, this is just an example of what you could do. Internal audits are a planned event, perhaps monthly. You could say internal audits are a monthly planned event examining an area of need and importance that is as identified through our management system. I mean, imagine putting that in your internal audit program right now. We go out monthly and we get our marching orders from management. Okay, here's your flow chart. On the one hand, you got a circle for management review, and on the other hand, you got a circle for analysis of data. Analysis of data, management review, and they cross over. In both, you examine problems. Those problems exit out and become what you put on your monthly audit schedule. Now you have a far more focused audit. It's like a Kaizen event. That audit then drives corrective action. So you leave with a problem and you come back with a hello. Guess what managers want? Leave with a problem, come back with the answer. That's what internal audits ought to be. This is not me. This is Nigel Croft, who is the convener for 9001. I was sitting in a conversation. I had my cigar. He had his booze. Sober 27 years. Mick, you do that tomorrow. Not radical. It's what we've been asking for since 2000. It's the process approach to auditing. Your input comes from management. It filters back to them and makes them feel like they're important. But beware of the onslaught. I'm one of them. Myself and 2 other people are writing a book on the revision to ISO 9001 2015. There's a ton of us. You're going to get all those phone calls. This is what happened the last time. True? True? Yes. Emails. There are going to be consultants coming out of the woodwork, and every one of them is going to say, I attended one meeting of the U.S. tag to TC 176, so I know what I'm talking about. It's in my resume. All that stuff is coming. All of it is coming. You better be judicious in what you do to filter that input, right? Don't freak out. The standard, by the way, is written in English. Yeah, what a thought. You can understand it. You don't need my book, you don't need somebody else's book, because you can go, as many of you know, to Ellesmere Cove and get all the misinformation you ever asked for. Get involved. If you really want to be in a position to maybe stand up on this stage and do batting practice, click that. Just tell anybody on the other end of that line, I want to get involved, whether it's environmental, quality, whatever. That's your link. We need new members all the time. Metrology, quality, right? Environment, ASQ standards at asq.org. Click the link and say, I want to get involved. What does it take to be a member? We need you. Outreach is what I've heard all the time from both quality division, right? And quality management and auditing division. We need you too. So let me steal some of your people and get them in with our meetings. You have never lived until you watch paint peel in Lisbon. So, remember, right? Right? Yeah. Well, you guys want to leave on a positive note, right? So, you know, when life hands you lemons, make lemonade. Or, I believe that life gives you. Yeah. Now, before I end, I have one more slide, and I think you really need to know this. You know, that whole, Dale Carnegie thing about when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, right? Don't forget. Thank you very much. Thank you.